Hello everyone and welcome back to Rare Japanese Sounds. And for once I thought, why not try something different, and instead of me just talking to you about a very arbitrary subject for 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to take the same amount of time and actually take you with me on, auction websites and various record websites, and just see what kind of interesting things are going on, what kind of records are up for purchase, and what are the different things I try to look at as quote unquote an experienced buyer, and see which one of them I think are good buys and what I'm looking at basically. So here is for instance, my watch list on Yahoo Auctions. You can see I have always about 10 to 15 different records and CDs that I'm watching at any given time because I don't want to miss anything. And you can see that, a couple of them are ending pretty soon. And in particular, you have one that is ending in just an hour. So let's look at that first. So of course, this one probably needs no introduction because we're talking about Magical by Junko Ohashi. And yeah, it's a copy that at first glance, at least, looks pretty good. The price is, again, pretty reasonable given this time period and the condition at first glance, of course. Now, a couple of things that you want to look at when you have an auction like that is first, can you trust the seller? In this case, you can see like more than 4,000 reviews and 100% positive feedback. So no problem on that, no need to dig further. You can see that another auction of Magical is also coming up, so we'll look at that right after. So let's see what the seller is saying. So if you are not in Japan, you will be using a proxy website like Okfan, or I don't remember the names, but whatever. And you will be able to translate that into English. But here we're just going to read in Japanese. So what do they say? So they say the disc has no feeling of use and is looking clean, but he hasn't listened to it. So please be understanding. Of course, that is a very typical thing to say, so we shouldn't really take that into account. But the fact that the seller says no traces of use and good condition is a very, very big green flag for me. So I'm definitely going to be bidding on that, at least just a little, maybe up to 40,000. In cases like that, you want to look at the latest auction data. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Auct3 or a similar website. You might not have access to that website from outside Japan if you're not using a VPN. So try to find an equivalent. But we're going to, I already have this in my search bar. So let's go ahead and look at the data from recent days. Okay, so as we can see here, we have 73,000, 44,000, 69,000. So I'm definitely not going to be hesitant to bid up to at least 40,000, let's say. That is just, of course, purely speculation. If I were going to bid on that, I would do for that amount. But again, you need to be looking at, okay, so what was the landscape like 1 year ago? And if you look 1 year ago, the prices were pretty different from today. You can see the prices being, okay, for good copies, you need to be looking at details like that. Stickers, yellow and red, means it's a rental copy. It means probably a few people at least have listened to it, a few different people. It has changed hands quite a lot. Didn't have the hobby, went for 19,000, but good copies were about 30,000. But if you go back even further, you will see that the price used to be like ridiculous, like only a few thousand yen in 2016, 2015. Of course, you can't compare the popularity of the album between now and then, but it's a good thing to have in mind. You will also notice that I don't see a single cassette copy that has been for sale since 2015. It's a pretty interesting thing to notice. But yeah, about 83 sold in 5 years means you have on average about like 15, 20 per year. So about one per month. So it's okay if you miss one. It's just to give you an idea of how rare it is to find it for auction. In this case, yeah, I might bid up to 40,000 or about in that range, but I won't be too sad if the record ends up going for like 50, 60,000. I will just wait for a better opportunity. A few things to look at is the seller said there is no trace of use, but if you look closely over here, you can see like very slight spindle marks. So it's not completely unplayed. It's just in good condition, but that's what you can expect. The insert is a bit dirty, but again, that's to be expected. I'm mostly interested about the jacket, but the jacket actually looks pretty clean and no trace of yellowing anywhere. The OB also is in good condition, so no problem about that. So I mentioned that there was another copy for auction, so let's look at it. So this one is pretty similar, and of course the photos are better quality, the pictures are better quality, so we need to be taking that into account. It's easier to see the defects on this one compared to the previous one. And of course, as I said earlier, yellow and red copy means it used to be a rental copy, so it makes the value go down a little. The seller in this case, no problem, large number of reviews, 100% positive, so not too much detail on the description, so you prefer to see a lot of details if possible, but just saying there is a sticker saying it's a rental copy. Yeah, same thing on the liner, but there is no picture of the liner, and saying the disc itself is quite in good condition. So yeah, that's probably a good copy too. I would be actually pretty interested in buying that if it were available for, let's say, 30 to 35,000. But of course, if I can get the one without the stickers that have the stigma of being rental copies for 40,000, I would be pretty happy too. Something interesting to see is this. Actually, I hadn't seen it up till now, so let's have a look at it. It's a single, like an EP for Takako Miya's Love Trip album. So of course, Love Trip is extremely well known. The LP goes for between 50 and 60,000 yen, you could say. But this is the single, which is actually pretty rare too. A bad point is that I see some damage on the front of the sleeve, the paper sleeve. It's not a very good strong point because you want to have the art as clean as possible. But yeah, apart from that, it looks pretty good. It's a promotional copy too, so that's all, again, a good point. See what the seller is selling, saying yes, trace of tape on the sleeve as we saw, a few stains, blah blah blah. So yeah, same seller, again, would be pretty interested in that, but the starting price is pretty high. Of course, having a high starting price doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, because having a high starting price limits the number of people that will be interested in bidding, and that makes the algorithm pick up the auction less. So it's actually a good thing to have a high starting price, as long as you're okay with paying that. Actually, let's have a look if you aren't used to that. So you copy the artist name if you don't know how to type it. So let's go, let's do this. And because we want the single, let's type One More Night. We might not get all the results, but at least it will give us an idea of, yeah, we can see that the usual price is 12, 10,000. Actually, I think the price might be a bit higher than that, and I didn't get all the results. Maybe by putting EP, yeah, you can see that there haven't been a lot of, wow, someone actually bought it for 50,000 in 2018. Pretty impressed. So yeah, you really have to do that a lot of the time if you want to have the best data and the largest amount of information before bidding on something. Okay, so that was this. I'm probably going to bid later, and we might talk about this later, but let's get on with the rest of my want list. So next up we have a CD by Shembara. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but this is an album that was only released on CD. However, well, before I talk about that, you might recognize some of the faces on the back of the CD, because you have a lot of huge names in the CD pop genre. You have what's her name? You have Kaoru Akimoto from the album Cologne, that's very popular abroad for CD pop fans. You also have Yurie Kokubu, also extremely popular for doing funk CD pop albums. You have two members of Cassiopeia, but I don't remember which ones. So yeah, you have a lot of big names put into one single album. It's a one-off, they didn't make anything else. So the CD itself, as you can see, is pretty valuable. This is about the range I would be comfortable with spending. Probably not too much higher, because CDs again are less rare than you might think. However, you can see that one is available to buy for 10,000. So you can see the price is somewhere probably between 4,500 and 10,000 yen. And one thing I would like to show you is, so even though the album itself was only released on CD and cassette, I think, something very interesting is that they did release a single on vinyl. And this one has become extremely popular recently. If we look at, again, recent sales data, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. Pretty recently, so of course, CD going for 5,000, but this one was with the hobby. $68,000 for a copy of the single on vinyl. So you might understand how exactly it's desirable. Even though like 3 months ago it was only 25,000. Be pretty careful when you're buying this kind of very, very rare record. Like 21,000, the more you go back and the more you become like very impressed by how low the price used to be. So remember, just because a record is expensive now doesn't mean it's going to stay that way forever. And it doesn't also mean it's going to go up in price that much. A good example I like to look at is Awakening. This is basically, of course, if you do that, you will see a lot of the reissue, but you can see that a good copy of the original, like a standard copy, is between like 12,000 roughly. But even if you go back to 2015, you can see that the original used to be that exact same price, like even 5 years back. So not all records are the same. And actually, I would be much more bullish buying a copy of Awakening that has stayed flat for 5 years compared to, you know, like something like Shambara, which used to fly like completely under the radar and now is worth 10 times the price it used to be 5 years ago. You can even have examples of the opposite. If you take things like Friends of Earth, I think it was like a band in which Haruomi Hosono was. Right now you can see that the price for the record is somewhere around like 3,000 to 5,000. On a good day, it's 5,000. But 5 years ago, look at how much it used to be. Like it was 5,000, but for a less good copy and a good one, again, 5,000. And I can give you examples of copies saying like for 10,000 if we look carefully. So this is maybe not the best example, but remember, it's not because an album is popular right now that it's always going to be that way. So now that we're done with this, let's continue with the rest. So I have a couple of jazz releases, even though I don't buy a lot of jazz, given the fact that jazz collectors in Japan have a lot of money to spend. This one is more popular among Westerners than among Japanese people themselves, but as you can see, 118 people are watching this item. It's huge, like it's not something you see a lot. So of course, this is a pretty popular jazz album by Akira Ishikawa, a drummer. I'm not exactly familiar with the contents of the album. I'm just watching the auction just to see for what price it ends up. Something, however, that I'm pretty interested in, is this sort of compilation from Jiro Inagaki. It's the same guy that did Funky Stuff, extremely popular funk jazz album. Of course, again, only popular in the West, but that's how it goes. And this one, actually, it's the first time I've ever heard of it. This is more like oriented towards funk, but with lyrics, as opposed to Funky Stuff, which is more original compositions without lyrics, at least not really. So this one is pretty different, and already 63 people watching. You can see that earlier I had a warning saying, yes, you've been overbid. I tried to make a bid to just make the price higher and have less people look at it. I'm pretty interested in seeing how high this can go, but I would definitely be interested in bidding. Even if it's pretty high, I would not hesitate to buy like double of what the price is. But for this kind of extremely rare jazz albums, you never know what people are going to do. Like sometimes those kind of, especially when you have the OB and when everything is in good condition, some people will just go crazy and bid like through the roof. So I'm just, watching on the sidelines. I'm not too, I don't love the album to the point where I absolutely want it, which is good. You don't want to be driven by emotion when bidding. Anyway, let's move on to a few more well-known albums. So this one, I never know how to pronounce this, but let's say the Mkwaju Ensemble. Pretty popular, at least it used to be very popular, at least 3 to 5 years ago. Now it's a bit less so, and the record isn't as expensive as it used to be. And you can see that it failed to sell for 18,000. So the seller is actually putting a discount and selling it for 15,000. And now that we're getting to 15,000 for a copy that has the OB and is signed too, well, people never have the same opinion compared to, regarding signed records. To me, I think it just adds value. It's not something that is extremely common. It's not something that people do a lot, especially for this kind of pretty obscure releases. Like if you take a signed copy of an Omega Tribe record, for instance, is going to have a certain value, much more than the original, of course. But if you took something like a Hiroshi Yoshimura record, like that guy never used to sign his record. Like who would take an ambient music record and ask the guy to sign it? So you really need to take those things into consideration. Personally, I think 15,000 is a pretty good price, and I might bid on it if people don't start realizing that this is a good purchase and start bidding above 15,000. So yeah, I'm pretty interested in seeing how this is gonna go. And yeah, this is pretty much a classic Spacey. All the time, I just have 1 or 2 copies of Spacey on my watch list just to monitor the price, check that everything is going, on the regular trend. And I always try to bid like on a reasonable price. Someday I might get a copy of Spacey, but so far I haven't had any luck. Of course, this is not very accurate of the final price it's going to have. It's probably going to be between 30 and 15,000 depending on the actual auction. Just for the exercise again, very good seller, 100% again, that's excellent. And all the time you have sellers that say, this is how I grade. You just want to know exactly how much damage there is on the record. And you can try to, based on the grade they give to the jacket compared to what you see, you can pretty much deduce how strict they are with grading the record. So they say the jacket is an A-, which is like almost the highest grade. So good condition for a used item. And yeah, from afar, it seems that they're pretty much right. The OB is in good condition. I don't see any big damage like on the side of the jacket. So yeah, everything seems good. They took a lot of pictures, which is always good. But yeah, they even like took the precaution to highlight the damage, which I really appreciate. And so yeah, we can pretty much agree with their grading, and they say the disc is between A- and A, which is actually the best grade they give. So I'm pretty interested in seeing if this is going to go above what it usually does. Yeah, might bid on it. Never know. Again, a couple of things. I have another copy of Spacey, and then I have... Yeah, let's finish with the rest in one go. Yeah, sorry, I have a lot of things. I might go a bit faster right now. But yeah, this is a copy of a record that I used to upload, that I had uploaded on my previous channel. And I like Jin Kirigaya. I think he's a very good artist, very underrated. And his records are pretty rare when you look at it. This is, I think, his best album from my personal perspective. I like some of the songs in it, particularly, let's say, I like Mystery Night and that kind of song. So if it stays for 1,000 yen, I will definitely be buying it. Now you can see that the seller actually has a pretty poor rating. 97% is not great. So you might want to have a look at why exactly he doesn't have good ratings, but for a low value record, I'm not too worried about the reputation of the seller. This is pretty interesting. It's the CD of Ryo Fukui in New York. Of course, it's no scenery. I know it's a meme to say it's no scenery on the jazz subreddit, but jokes aside, it's a pretty clean looking copy. It does have the OB. The OB is in good condition, and I know that CD collectors love to have like brand new looking OBs like that. They don't want to have an OB if the OB that just looks bad. The price is pretty high, but again, the CD has sold for pretty high prices in the past. But be careful, because here the shipping fees are like 10% of the value of the CD. Usually a CD would have like 200 yen shipping fees. This is a bit higher, but just something to keep in mind when you're bidding on something that has a low value. Here it's not the case, so it's not too bad. This is Seaside Lovers. I already have a copy of Seaside Lovers, but mine doesn't have an OB or the poster. It just has the insert, and I'm looking to upgrade pretty much because I really, really love the poster. I think it's one of the best from a CD pop record. This one also has the advantage of being sold by Ella Records, a very trusted vinyl record specializing in that kind of things. The price is already pretty high, unfortunately, so I'm expecting the price to be above 15,000 yen, given that you have a trusted seller and the condition looks to be pretty good. But if the price ends up below that, I might sneak it a bit. It just depends on what the price is at the end. Okay, let's move on a bit more quickly. This is a very, very good looking copy of Aqua, and I did buy a copy pretty recently, but it wasn't really in good condition. I will keep it just to listen to it, but if I want to have a copy to just to keep for my collection, this would be it. Like, it looks gorgeous. And again, LR Records, we can see that LR Records is selling a few different records at once, so it's a pretty good idea to buy them all at once. I'm pretty surprised that they give a low rating to the jacket, even though it looks beautiful from right here. So we say like scratches and yeah, scratches at the back. Apparently there is also a few dirt stains, but no split or things like that. So the fact that they give a VG plus for the jacket is pretty good if they say the record is in, what condition did they say? They said the record is in excellent condition. So, but they have a weird way of grading LR records. Sometimes they say X minus, but actually the record could be X plus or X. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on that one, honestly. And this is, again, my favorite from Hiroshi Sato, Orient. This is an amazing album, but I do already have a copy. If I were looking to upgrade, I would probably be looking to upgrade with a copy with Obi. This one doesn't, but just looking at the price out of curiosity, just to see how much it ends up for. I bought my copy for 15,000, but it was in less good shape than this. So yeah, depending on the price, I will probably not bid on it unless it stays at that price. Next up is an album I didn't know existed on vinyl record, honestly. Toshiki Kadomatsu, of course, continued to produce albums way beyond like After Five Clash and those albums. And Reasons for 1,000 Lovers, I think, came out in 88 or 89. The fact is, it was mostly released on CD. Back in 89, everything almost was released on CD. But they did apparently release a record, which I didn't know about. So again, extremely interested in seeing the price for which this is going to end up. And I have no idea. I would have to look at price data for that. Okay, let's do it even. We haven't done it for at least 10 to 15 minutes. So let's see, do we have any data from the CD? We can see the cassette tape here, which is pretty interesting. Okay, of course, lots of CD. So we're going to put CD as a keyword we do not want to have. And let's also look at the most expensive copies sold to have an idea. So yeah, pretty expensive. Like 21,000 down to 7,200 yen. So we have basically about 20 copies sold in the span of 5 years, which is 4 times as few. No, sorry. So what I mean is Magical had 4 times as many copies sold in the span of 5 years. So this is much rarer. And if the price is way below the current price, which seems to be, where is it? Which seems to be in the 15 to 20,000 yen, might be a good purchase. But I didn't know about the album before, so I might not buy it, especially if the price ends up being its normal value. This is a promotional copy of Mangekyo by Yoshiko Sai, very popular album. I find it very interesting that the promo version has a black and white jacket as opposed to having the colored one. The problem is no obi. I don't know if the promo copy usually has an obi or not. It might not have one at all. Of course, the condition is pretty, not great. And I'm actually extremely surprised at the price, given that a few months ago, I remember seeing a copies like that selling for like 50% less than 10,000 yen. Actually, I'm looking at this copy right here, 50,000 yen. It ends in 10 minutes. So this is a pretty good purchase. I might just buy it depending on the recent price data. This is definitely the kind of thing I would be looking to buy, as opposed to a promo copy that used to be worth less. It depends on really if you value more having a unique looking copy or having the original that people know. Anyway, then we have Future File, pretty popular album by Hiroshi Sato. It did sell more copies than, let's say, Awakening and This Boy, so it's not as rare. The usual price would be between 2,000 and 3,000 yen. Again, this is sold by LR Records. The problem is you have an obi that is not good looking, so it might drive the price way down what it usually would be. So yeah, it's looking not good. But yeah, it's better than a copy with no obi, so might bid something around 2,000 yen. Yeah, we'll see when the auction ends. And yeah, we've done it. So this was just me looking at different records that are going on sale right now and ending soon. I hope that you will have gathered a few interesting things to look at, how to, think about, do I want to buy this? What are my goals as a collector? What am I exactly looking for? And how do I use my budget to buy the things I am looking for? it's pretty important to understand how much you are willing to spend on one thing when you can be buying more with the same money. Anyway, so for this episode, we only looked at Yahoo auctions, but on the next episodes, actually, if you like the content, we might do more of that. But I'm also thinking of doing the same, but when looking at other types of platforms, maybe on Mercari, maybe Discogs, maybe other Japanese record websites. There are a ton of ways to go about this, but let me know if you at least enjoyed this one. And yeah, in any case, it was Rare Japanese Sounds. Let me know what you thought, and until next week, stay tuned.